Okay, so the other Tanquilists don't really want me doing this video, and they're all on about how language is the most boring topic I could have possibly chosen for a video, especially for what is essentially our first video, but I'm doing it anyway, because while they're all out doing important stuff, like working for NASA or solving crimes with psychic powers or hacking Kung Fury back in time, I'm ultimately left doing all the script writing and video editing, and then they just kinda come back after it's done and add some snarky comment and colorful text. So in the end, it's really just up to me. Plus, I mean, just look at them. Nobody cares what they have to say. They don't even have mouths. Why should they get an opinion on language? So I don't know if anybody else can relate to this, but back in my elementary school at least, the ability to memorize and pronounce big words was like a status symbol. The best being words like anti-disestablishmentarianism or pneumano-ultramicroscopic volcanoconiosis. The point of this retrospectively unnecessary anecdote being that even on a simple scale, language could be fun. I'm not making that point very well, am I? Anyway, words like that are called sesquipedalianims. Isn't that interesting? Well, that's not really true, but I needed a segue to get to the actual script. Segue! Everybody knows the common nyms. You got your antonyms and synonyms, your heteronyms and homonyms, your acronyms and pseudonyms. But that's in no way the end of the word-related shenanigans, and those aren't even the most interesting ones. There are also anacronyms, which used to be and technically still are acronyms, but might as well not be, aren't usually capitalized, and are much better known than their unabbreviated forms. Contrarily, you have anacronyms, which are words misnomically retained even after their origin has become obsolete. Anepronyms are that thing where a brand name becomes synonymous with the product itself, like Kleenex, Jell-O, or Band-Aids, or with verbs like to Photoshop, to Xerox, or to Google. An aptronym is when the name of something is extremely fitting to it thematically, such as any time any science fiction writer names anything ever. Contronyms are words with multiple definitions, some of which contradict one another. Backronyms are acronyms whose abbreviation is chosen first and then assigned full words, such as SHIELD or the mission titles from Kids Next Door. I could go on, easily, but I still want this video to be at least slightly interesting to people who aren't me, so... Segue! In addition to sitting around and coming up with increasingly fancy and decreasingly relevant words to describe other words, language nerds also spend their time toying with the words that are already there and making little, overly complex and confusing sentences for the sole purpose of being overly complex and confusing. Some good examples are that is, that is not, or more confusingly, James, while John had a better effect on the teacher. Both sentences are made somewhat less confusing by adding proper punctuation. But beyond even that, in both the realm of uselessness and in that of nerdiness, is the one-word sentence. There are several examples of these, the most famous of them being the Buffalo sentence, in which several buffalo named Buffalo from Buffalo go about and buffalo other buffalo named Buffalo from Buffalo. Or in short, Buffalo, 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 Buffalo. It's essentially the same as saying, Kansas woman Rebecca beat Colorado boy Eric. Kind of awkward, both phonetically and grammatically, but still technically correct. There is also the less famous, but equally, if not more peculiar, Will's Will, which requires at least 3 different people named Will, and is the equivalent of saying, Hey Alan, does Bob plan to give Charlie a copy of Bob's Final Wishes? But then, if we take it one step further beyond what should be the logical conclusion of these shenanigans, we get the infinite one-word sentence, which I honestly didn't believe was already a thing when I began making this, but I guess it is, so let's go over the sole existing example. Since the word police is both a noun and a verb, and since it is commonly accepted to modify its noun form with a preceding noun, such as the grammar police being the police that police grammar, you can logically extend this to say that the police are the police that police, or simply police, and from there we can extrapolate that police, and so on. This works for any even number of the word police beyond 4, as any such string can be broken down into a string of n nouns, a verb, and a subsequent string of n-1 nouns. And that brings me, finally, to the primary reason for this video, because I believe we, and by we I don't mean the Tanquilists, but rather my father and I, have discovered another infinite one-word sentence, one that, as far as I can tell, seems to be previously undocumented. So here it is. All you need is the word and. While the word and is typically only used as a conjunction, it can be a verb in the context of designing circuits or software. In computer programming, to and two values is to check whether or not both of them are true. That being said, if we assume that and is an acceptable name for a human being, and also give ourselves a bizarre hypothetical programming language where multiple variables can share a name somehow, we can say and and. Or alternatively, and. In either case, we can expand indefinitely, and it works with any number of ands greater than or equal to 7, since unlike in the case of police, the placement of the verb is arbitrary as long as the sets on either side both have at least 3 ands. Trying to do it with less results in something like this. If there are less than 2 in the set of people named and, then the verb needs to be conjugated and is no longer the same word. Whereas if there aren't at least 2 variables, the operation is invalid from a technical standpoint. That's really all I got for now, so always remember, these guys don't have mouths, language is fun, and